Hello, everyone. You got Larson here from Gondola, and what we're going to be talking about here today is how to take and turn your discovery calls into kind of a format that helps you create repeatable wins. What I believe is that discovery calls are some of the most challenging pieces of a sales cycle. It's easy to talk through how to do it, but it's much different to actually put that into practice and create a framework for yourself if you're a rep to really dig and uncover pain, implications of pain, and dig deeper and deeper and deeper and layer into that discovery call framework. Or if you're a leader, how do you kind of set your team up for success and create these repeatable frameworks, basically, that allow them to be consistent in every single call that they're running on the discovery side. So we're going to walk through a few-step process here on how I do it, and we'll do it right from a Zoom window. So as I think about discovery calls, I kind of break it up into kind of 6 core components. And this includes some of the pre-call research in addition to actually running the discussion. And so right here within Zoom, the way I think about it is first and foremost, what you want to be doing is reviewing Salesforce data. Let's dig into the opportunity. Let's look deeply at the history of this account. Who spoke with them in the past? Who did they speak with? What are the names of those people? How did that conversation go? Did they make it far into the sales cycle, or did they kind of miss the mark a little bit and it fell flat? This can give you some indicators around, how might I want to work this conversation and make sure I'm not doing things that could be detrimental to the overall sales cycle or setting me up for false expectations on how I should be running the sales cycle. You might uncover pieces that could be really important around, oh man, this leader, really was the main person and detractor in the sales cycle. So it's something to be aware of, this kind of spot here. So that can be anything from specific information on the actual ops that have, been opened or closed in the past, on the account level, activity that was done. Really, the important thing is to dig in and kind of brief yourself on all the information and the context that happened in the past. In a similar vein, what I like to do is some pre-call research. So what does this mean to me? This means that we're looking at kind of 2 key facets here. The first one is an account level, digging into the account level side. So really, as I look at meeting with this specific account, I'll look into recent news articles that were released, any funding announcements. What have their founders been doing recently? Let's look into LinkedIn data. How has the company growth been happening over the past, 6 to 12 months? Are there any specific departments that were growing faster than others? How are they hiring right now? There are a lot of key pieces of information that you can dig in on, really to try to uncover, what is kind of the current status of the company. And there's a reason why we're doing this, and that's for this next part. But you're kind of gathering information to craft a unique point of view. And that's the next piece of this, because when you start a discovery call, your main objective on the front half is, yes, of course, to build rapport. And you can do that by, some, opening questions, welcomes and intros, get an understanding of who you're speaking with, which we'll get to. But a unique, kind of point of view or perspective on their business shows that you've done your research. You're coming into this call with well thought out ideas and unique questions. And so what this pre-call research really dictates is the kind of unique point of view and the questions that we want to be asking. And so once you've gathered this information, this is where I like to, as I first start off a call, do introductions, backgrounds, and tell me a little bit more about your current focus right now. Just kind of general open-ended questions to kick things off. Make sure that we're kind of in alignment on who I'm meeting with, what their roles and responsibilities are, and what they're focused on. So I'm not, kind of barking up the wrong tree, so to speak. And then this next perspective or point is creating a unique point of view. So this is where, after doing all my pre-call research, I try to come up with a perspective or an opinion on their business that is not, a really strong opinion, but it's something that shows that I've thought through what I think their business is doing, what they're trying to accomplish in the next year. And then you kind of queue up a handful of really strong power questions. And that's where the research combined with the unique point of view, combined with the power questions, can be a really interesting trio there that can get you started off on the right foot if you do it correctly. And so, regardless of that, you have to really think deeply about what is the product that you're selling, who are you selling it to, what types of information are you trying to uncover before every call, and then create your unique point of view and power questions that are associated with this. And you will certainly find themes in the kind of this section of a discovery call, but this is your opportunity to grab attention, show your prospect that you can be an actual business partner and not just someone who's trying to sell them on something, and that you're actually fairly well educated on the industry, overall objectives, and you kind of know what you're talking about here, really. Once you've done a good job of building this rapport here, so you did your unique point of view, you asked your power questions, we have good, kind of back and forth with my prospect, and we started off the call on the right foot. Now is when we can get into, what I would say is the current state, future state. So as I'm understanding, I, had those initial questions that we're teeing up here, then I kind of go into, sometimes what might be some of the boring stuff. Tell me about your company. Tell me about the business. Tell me about your team. For us, we're interested to learn about your current state. How are you doing this today? Why are you doing it that way? What solutions do you have at your disposal? What's going well? What's not going well? And then, of course, understanding the future state. Where are you trying to get to? Because now you have an understanding of who this person is, what they're focused on, so you can bring that back into the conversation and say, okay, I understand kind of where you're at right now as a business. Where are you trying to get to? And what this does is, lets them kind of articulate a lot of these key pieces. How do they see themselves getting into the future state where they want to be? And it helps you to gain understanding of, are there any areas in which we can fit into this equation? So this is a really key part. It's not a super novel idea, understanding current state, future state, and the gaps between that. But a lot of reps get this right, and this next part is where a lot of reps get it wrong, in my opinion. So I can get a good understanding of your current state. You might be like, this is, I'm having a ton of problems here. And I'd say the majority of reps, 80% or greater, are just taking that at face value, not digging any deeper, and not layering in additional questions to help them dig and understand why they can't do this with existing solutions. Why can't it be done today? What are some of the issues or problems there? And that's what this next part is why this and why now. And so I like to say this question is, hey, I know this is going to sound really silly. It might sound a little junior, but why do you want to get to this future state? Why is this important? Why is this initiative for you? How does this impact you? How does this impact your team? And how does this impact a company as a whole as we look at this quarter, next quarter, and subsequent years beyond this? Then that's where you can dig into the actual kind of metrics. We follow MedPick here at Gondola. And so this is where I can kind of uncover a lot of those items that can help me to qualify a deal in or out. And what this also does is, if you really think about what you want to do on a discovery call, is exit with, kind of a power statement around, this company is trying to get to X and they can't do it because of Y. And the reason why this is all important is they're trying to change this specific metric that is going to have this impact on the business, which will ultimately lead to more revenue, faster, more customers, so on and so forth. And so that's why I like to key this up, is this may sound silly or quite junior, but bear with me. Why are you trying to get here? Why is this important? And I like that kind of leading statement because you kind of state in the obvious, like, hey, I know this might sound like kind of dumb, but hear me out. And then understanding why they can't get there with existing solutions. And then the second part of this is, what happens in your world if you aren't able to solve this problem? You just move on with your life and it's not that big of a deal? Or do you miss your quarterly number next quarter? Or you can't bring in as many customers, or you can't get funding? So trying to understand the layers in which it'll impact both the person, the team, and the overarching company. And that's where you can get more into the implications of pain as you're further qualifying this conversation. And then the last piece is, this is now our time to pitch. If you notice, this is balanced appropriately. Discovery calls should be 80 to 85% talking about the prospect, what their problems are, their needs are, their wants, desires, wishes, and very minimal time is spent on us, but enough where it's at the end where you can create kind of an intriguing pitch that's catered to a lot of the pieces that you're able to uncover in that discovery call. And now is your opportunity to have a few kind of value points queued up here. And you can prep these up ahead of time. Every solution out there has kind of categories of value they can offer, and correlating, the current state, future state, those kind of pain and with the value add can be a really important thing. So when we get to the spot where we have kind of really strong statements about our product or product offering and solution, then it'll really allow us to further create intrigue. And then, of course, as you kind of go then you start to move into next steps and you're kind of done. And this is about a 30-minute discovery call on average. I shoot to ask questions for about 20-ish minutes. You can kind of get a feel of when your prospect's getting a little annoyed with you. And then what I like to do from there is then go into the pitch that I might be doing and tell them a little bit about our solution, so on and so forth. So this is how I view, running a discovery call, and how you turn, discovery calls into repeatable wins. my opinion, that discovery is one of the most important places and parts of the sales cycle. And so this is a good framework that you can adopt, whether you're just an individual AE or you're a leader trying to scale an organization. Embedding this type of framework directly into Zoom so your reps are always following can be a really, really strong way to make sure you create those repeatable wins and you scale one of the toughest parts of the sales cycle. So I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, reach out to me, leave a comment on this video, but I appreciate the time here today, and we'll talk to you soon.